Imagine a world where towering glaciers crumble into the sea, where ancient ice formed over millennia fractures and falls with a thunderous roar into the churning waters below. This is not a distant possibility. It is happening right now, in some of the most remote and fragile corners of our planet. Where once there was solid ice stretching as far as the eye could see, now there is only the restless ocean. The frozen landscapes that once defined the poles are vanishing, leaving behind a watery expanse littered with fragments of a disappearing world. This is not a scene from a science fiction film. It is the reality of our warming planet. The ice is retreating faster than ever before, and the signs are everywhere, from the Arctic tundra to the southernmost reaches of Antarctica. Across the Arctic and Antarctic, vast ice sheets, some miles thick and thousands of years old, are melting at an alarming rate. Scientists have recorded unprecedented levels of ice loss, with some regions losing billions of tons of ice each year. Researchers are racing to understand the full impact of this melt. Ice cores reveal the history of Earth's climate, and satellite data shows us just how quickly the transformation is occurring. The evidence is clear. The planet is warming, and the ice is responding. This melting ice doesn't just disappear. It flows into the oceans, contributing to rising sea levels around the globe. Every drop of meltwater adds to a growing problem, one that threatens coastlines, ecosystems, and human settlements alike. The consequences of this global melt are far-reaching and potentially devastating. Coastal cities are already experiencing more frequent flooding, and infrastructure built decades ago is now vulnerable to the encroaching sea. Coastal communities face an uncertain future as the sea encroaches upon their homes and livelihoods. Families are being forced to relocate, and governments are scrambling to build defenses against a threat that grows stronger with each passing year. In some places, the battle against rising seas is already underway. Children walk to school through flooded streets, emergency teams respond to storm surges, and sandbags line the edges of cities once thought safe from the ocean's reach. The very existence of low-lying island nations is threatened by the rising tide. These communities, often with rich cultural histories and deep ties to the land, may become the first climate refugees, displaced not by war, but by water. For these islanders, the loss is not just physical, it is emotional, spiritual, and cultural. Entire ways of life are at risk of being washed away, leaving behind memories and stories that may never be passed on. This is the silent crisis of our time, a slow-motion catastrophe that demands our urgent attention. The melting ice may seem distant, but its effects are already lapping at our shores. The question is no longer if we will be affected, but how soon and how severely. The question is no longer whether sea levels are rising, but how quickly and how high they will rise in the coming decades. The answer to this question will determine the fate of millions of people living in coastal areas around the world. It will shape the geography of our planet, redrawing coastlines and swallowing entire islands. The future of our planet, and indeed our civilization, depends on our ability to understand and address the complex challenges posed by melting ice and rising seas. It is a question that demands our immediate attention and collective action. The time to act is now, before the tide of change becomes an unstoppable force. At the heart of this crisis lies a simple yet profound truth. Our planet is warming. This warming isn't just a distant concern for future generations, it's a reality we are facing right now. The signs are everywhere, and perhaps nowhere are they more visible than in the polar regions of our planet. These icy frontiers, once thought to be unchanging and eternal, are now undergoing rapid and dramatic transformations. The primary driver of this warming is human activity. The burning of fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas releases vast amounts of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. These gases act like a blanket, trapping heat that would otherwise escape into space. Deforestation compounds the problem by reducing the number of trees that can absorb carbon dioxide. Add to that the emissions from vehicles, factories, and agriculture, and we have a recipe for a rapidly warming planet. This phenomenon, known as global warming, is not just a scientific term, it's a force that is reshaping our world. One of the most visible and alarming effects of global warming is the melting of polar ice. The Arctic and Antarctic regions, which serve as the Earth's natural refrigerators, are losing ice at an accelerating pace. What was once solid ancient ice is now cracking, thinning, and disappearing. The polar regions, particularly the Arctic and Greenland, are warming at twice the rate of the rest of the planet. This phenomenon, known as Arctic amplification, is caused by feedback loops, such as the loss of reflective ice surfaces, which are replaced by darker ocean water that absorbs more heat. As the ice melts, more heat is absorbed, which in turn causes more melting. It's a vicious cycle that's difficult to stop once it begins. This accelerated warming is causing ice sheets and glaciers to melt at an unprecedented rate, pouring billions of tons of water into the oceans each year. Glaciers that have stood for thousands of years are now retreating rapidly. Massive chunks of ice are breaking off and crashing into the sea, a process known as calving. Rivers of meltwater are carving through ice sheets, further destabilizing them from within. The consequences of this melt are already being felt around the world. Rising sea levels threaten to submerge low-lying coastal cities and island nations. Storm surges are becoming more destructive, and extreme weather events like hurricanes, floods, and heat waves are growing in both frequency and intensity. The melting of polar ice is not just a regional issue. It's a global emergency that affects ecosystems, economies, and communities everywhere. If we don't act now, the changes we're witnessing today may soon become irreversible. Greenland, the world's largest island, is covered by a massive ice sheet, an ancient frozen expanse that has existed for millions of years. This icy blanket spans over 660,000 square miles, making it one of the most significant reservoirs of fresh water on the planet. If this ice were to melt entirely, it would release enough water to raise global sea levels by more than 20 feet. That's enough to submerge major coastal cities like New York, London, and Mumbai, displacing millions and reshaping coastlines around the world. Then there's Antarctica, the coldest, driest, and windiest continent on Earth. It holds a staggering 90% of the world's ice and about 70% of its fresh water. If all of Antarctica's ice were to melt, sea levels could rise by over 200 feet, a scenario that would be catastrophic for human civilization. Scientists have been studying these frozen frontiers for decades, drilling deep into the ice to uncover climate records that stretch back hundreds of thousands of years. These ice cores reveal a troubling trend. Temperatures are rising faster now than at any point in recorded history. These two ice giants, Greenland and Antarctica, are not just remote frozen wastelands, they are dynamic systems deeply connected to the health of our planet. Their fate is intertwined with ours. As global temperatures rise due to human-induced climate change, these ice sheets are becoming increasingly unstable. Warmer air and ocean currents are melting them from above and below, weakening their structure and accelerating their decline. Glaciers are flowing faster toward the sea, carving off into massive icebergs that drift into the ocean. These icebergs eventually melt, adding more water to the seas and contributing to rising sea levels. The consequences of this ice loss are far-reaching. Rising seas threaten to inundate low-lying nations, erode coastlines, and increase the frequency of storm surges and flooding in coastal communities. In recent decades, the rate of ice loss from Greenland and Antarctica has accelerated dramatically. What was once a slow glacial process is now happening at an alarming pace, clear evidence of the profound impact of global warming. Scientists, policymakers, and activists around the world are sounding the alarm. The time to act is now. Protecting these frozen giants is not just about saving ice. It's about preserving the balance of our planet and securing a future for generations to come. The evidence is irrefutable. Our planet is losing ice at an alarming rate. According to NASA, the rate of ice loss from Greenland has increased sixfold since the 1990s. Antarctica has lost about 150 billion tons of ice per year since 2002. This accelerating melt is a clear signal that our planet is in peril. This massive loss of ice is not just a statistic, it is a tangible sign of the profound changes taking place on our planet. It is a stark reminder of the urgent need to address the root causes of climate change and to take action to mitigate its impacts.